Just finished Night Train to Odessa by Jane Stout, lying on the sofa with little Willow the Bengals. That epilogue had me tearing up, and the scene in the last chapter where Jane goes down to a dance in a metro station in Kiev. Wow. I had a look at her website as well. She does talk about some photos, including one that she took at that dance, which she described as a perfect photo of a couple dancing. An old couple in waltz hold. So if you look at her website, you can check out those photos and others. She's a really good photographer as well as writer. And I'm struck by the humanity, I think is the word. The way that she describes how people come together during a conflict like that their lives just continue amidst the chaos. And a concept that she mentioned that I found interesting was the risk factor. How to people in Scotland, seeing her going to Ukraine seemed like a crazy risk. But to people in Kiev, going to Donetsk is a crazy risk. To people in Donetsk, going to Bakhmut is a crazy risk. It's all just levelling up. And there was a scene where she went to a city by mistake, which was in the red zone for her insurance purposes, which meant she wasn't covered. She had been planning to go to a different city, but she'd hopped in the wrong pickup at the petrol station where she was waiting for her pickup to take her to where she was intending to go. So she ended up going to this more dangerous zone. And it was a nice scene, you know. I like the fact that she put that in and described how her editor was going to be pissed. So, yeah, that was a nice scene, wasn't it, Willow? I picked the book up on a whim, just when I was in Waterstones. They had it in the hardback section, the new releases. And, yeah, it caught my attention, and honestly, because I read the back that she was from Shetland, I was like, that was probably the factor that pushed me into the purchase zone. And I'm glad I bought it. It says here Jane Stout is a very brave storyteller of supreme gifts. And yeah, she's a brave storyteller. But it's the friendships that she makes and the way she describes those. And then the epilogue where she talks of two of her friends that didn't make it. And we know those people now because the way she wrote about them, the relationship she had with them, the time she spent with them. So it really hits you when you read that epilogue. I wouldn't say who it was for spoiler purposes, but yeah, just beware that it's emotional. And I found, you know, the Odesa scenes, I spent a year there during the wild capitalist times of just after the wall came down, so 95, 96. I imagine it's very different now. And one of the things that she describes is the fact that the Ukrainians and the Russians are different. I mean, obviously. But that's not quite so obvious, for me anyway, having spent time in Odessa, because it felt very much like Russians and Ukrainians intermingled and got along. I mean, I went to Odessa because I was studying Russian, you know. Why did I not go to Russia? Well, it was for many reasons, but Odessa was a perfectly good place to study Russian, even if I did start using H's instead of G's, because that's how Ukrainian is. They don't use the hard G sound that Russian uses. They use a H sound. So halava instead of galava for head, as an example. So yeah, I did pick up some Ukrainian dialect, I suppose. In fact, someone once told me that I spoke Russian like a Jew, because Odesa was a Jewish city. So to have that, I mean, where was she? It was at Donetsk, where she was talking with people no, it wasn't Donetsk, it was Kharkiv, and that some of the people there felt more Ukrainian now than ever before. I mean, I can understand that. It's like when I went to the army at 16 and I was living in England for the first time, I became super Scottish, you know. And you can imagine that the war in Ukraine is going to make Ukraine more Ukrainian after. And that's the word she uses. You don't say after the war, you say after, which is a very Scottish thing. I'll see you after. You know, after what? My wife would say. My wife is English. So, yeah, and it's put Ukraine on the map in a really good way, in an international way, that hopefully when this all finishes, we'll see Ukraine flourish into an independent country that's internationally recognised and becomes a place that people want to visit, you know. I would love to go back. I wouldn't go back now. I'm not a brave storyteller. I'm a kind of lie on the sofa with the cat kind of guy. I'll read about it, you know, I'm not going to go and report on it. So I'm very glad I picked this up. It was an excellent impulse buy, and I hope that she goes back. I'm sure she will. And I hope that she writes a sequel. Or maybe I'll start reading the Sunday Post. She writes for the Sunday Post. And she's on the BBC. I haven't listened to any of her BBC interviews or reports. So maybe I'll look them up. I'll become a follower of Jen Stout. Yeah, I think I'll do that. So, that's me. Da batching you. See you after.